Hi, everyone. Today I want to share a story that a woman gave me. She told me, "Tell it with your voice so people can hear it and learn from my lesson." This story isn't mine, but I'm going to tell it as if I'm living it myself, so you can feel every moment, every thought, and every feeling I had throughout this journey. I was living with my husband, and our life was normal at first, but slowly I started noticing little things that worried me. He was neglecting himself. His work was messy, his schedule disorganized, and he wasn't taking care of his health. Even the way he treated me became difficult. Sometimes he would stay silent for hours, other times he would snap without reason, and I felt lost. I remember sitting quietly in the living room one morning, watching him make his coffee, thinking to myself, I can't give up. I need to be smart. I need to find a way to bring him back to the right path. I knew that yelling or blaming him would do nothing. Instead, I decided to approach him with patience and subtle intelligence. I began observing him carefully, paying attention to what made him happy, what frustrated him, and what triggered his moods. I took notes in a small notebook, not to control him, but to understand him better, to find a path that could help him change without pressure or force. The first few days were tricky. Sometimes he ignored my messages or small gestures, and I felt discouraged. But I reminded myself, patience is the key. Each step has to be thoughtful. I have to show love and care without him feeling forced or watched. I started doing small, deliberate things. A cup of coffee in the morning, a little note on the table saying, "I believe in you," or a small compliment about his work. These small gestures were powerful. They made him notice that I cared, that I supported him, and that I believed he could do better. He didn't even realize I was guiding him slowly, gently, step by step. I used women's cleverness, the kind of intelligence that doesn't confront with anger, but influences quietly. I left positive notes around the house. I changed the atmosphere subtly, sometimes putting on soft music he liked, sometimes planning a small walk outside. Every tiny change was calculated but invisible, so it felt natural to him. He didn't feel pressured. He just started noticing the difference in the environment and in my behavior. As days passed, I observed small changes. He began apologizing for little mistakes. He started making small efforts to be organized again. He even began taking care of himself a little more, dressing neatly, paying attention to his work, and engaging more with family life. Each time he did something positive, I smiled quietly to myself, knowing that the patience, love, and subtle cleverness I showed were working more effectively than any lecture or angry confrontation could. I remember one particular evening. He came home frustrated from work. Normally, this would trigger an argument, but I calmly offered him a cup of tea and said softly, "I know it's been tough today. Do you want to talk, or should we sit quietly together for a bit?" He chose to sit, and for the first time in a long while, we just shared silence, letting the stress leave the room. After a while, he opened up about what had upset him, and I listened carefully, nodding, offering small supportive words. That night, I felt the power of patience and subtle guidance more than ever. I continued this pattern for weeks. Every small gesture, every quiet moment of support, every clever little adjustment in our daily life was a step towards rebuilding the person he could be and the relationship we could have. Sometimes I felt exhausted, wondering if it was working, but I reminded myself, real change takes time. Consistency and quiet intelligence win where anger fails. Over time, the transformation became undeniable. He started caring more for himself, his work became organized again, and his interactions with me grew warmer and more considerate. Our relationship blossomed, stronger than it had ever been. Friends and family noticed the change, but what mattered most to me was that I had done it through patience, wisdom, and subtle influence, through cleverness that guided rather than pushed. Even during difficult days, when unexpected problems arose, I remained calm. I spoke softly, offered solutions gently, and encouraged him without forcing. He began learning to manage himself better. He began to reflect on his actions, realizing the consequences of neglect or frustration. He was changing because he wanted to, not because I demanded it. I kept observing, planning, and gently guiding. I learned that patience and cleverness could change someone more effectively than shouting or scolding. Slowly, he became more responsible, more attentive, more loving. Our household became calmer, happier, more connected. And I realized that the way a woman navigates challenges with intelligence and care can reshape not just her relationship, but the person she loves. By the time months had passed, he was transformed. Our love grew stronger, deeper, and more understanding. He was no longer the man I had worried about. He was someone who appreciated patience, recognized care, and responded to subtle guidance. Every gesture, every word, every quiet act of cleverness had helped him return to the right path. And the lesson I want everyone to take from this story is patience, understanding, and clever care can change people more than any anger or shouting ever could. Even if the road seems long and hopeless, genuine support and subtle guidance can bring someone back to the right path, step by step. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to True Tales so you never miss a new story. Hit the bell icon and join us on every journey of real emotions and clever lessons.